Hello, welcome everyone to the next episode of the AIM Media House podcast, Simulated Reality. Today we have with us the CEO and founder of Massive, Gianluca Ruggiero. Hi, Gian. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Kashi. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Looking forward to the long weekend. So,
Same here. Same here.
yeah,
It's a warm weekend in Connecticut, so looking forward to it.
fantastic. To our audience, what Massive does a little bit and help set the context to what we are going to talk about, which is the hype around Gen AI and how do we move from hype to actionable insight, so that helps our audience too. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let me also introduce myself a bit because people will wonder about my accent. So I was born and raised in Italy, in the south of Italy, and I started my career at Unilever as I was responsible for global brands, for innovation and market strategy. I was in marketing basically at the time. And then I moved to consultancy. I led the Italy office of McKenworth Group, which is one of the big five advertising agencies. Then I moved to the States to lead the strategy globally for J. Walter Thompson, which is another one of the big five advertising companies. And those experiences were very important for the creation of Massive because basically, as I was working with Fortune 500 companies around the globe, I was noticing that it was more and more difficult for companies, as well as for me as a consultant, to cope with the speed and the rate of change, the complexity of modern markets, specifically but not exclusively in the CPG world, so consumer product. And because of that, the idea came that basically data were available to improve the strategy, but they were not made sense of. They were too big for traditional methodologies, and this is where the idea of creating Massive came. So Massive was launched with a soft launch in 2019. We were lucky enough to start working with the best and brightest in the industry. Like first customer was Procter Gamble. They've been a customer of ours for 5 years and now 6 years. We're just signing the 6-year contract. Then Nestle and many other big names in the CPG. We spent our first years to develop the technology with these big names. And basically, Massive is a platform that has a very simple task. It basically helps CPG companies it informs them about what products they have to kill, they have to build, and they have to improve in their existing assortment. Very simple task, but very complex functionality where we are basically helping our customers spend better tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars with the right products, with the right market strategy, product strategy, and so forth. So Massive is, of course, making use of AI. We have more than 100, our team has more than 100 papers published on the topic. So we know quite a few things about artificial intelligence. And so this is in a nutshell me and Massive.
Okay, fantastic. I think that's a great introduction, and that sets the context to what we are going to talk about, right? Essentially, moving from the hype towards actionable insights for Gen AI, and is that everybody's getting fatigued of Gen AI at this point, and it's typical of AI industry that it moves so fast, right? Like the hype around it started not so long ago, and then suddenly everybody's getting fatigued of it, but rightly so, right? It is an expensive investment. It's not something which comes very cheap. There's a lot of resources, a lot of time invested, plus the computational power is very high. How are you seeing some of these things? What are you hearing from your customers? Are they getting fatigued of this promise? What are some of the conversations that you had, and how did you as well as your company have to maneuver around these topics in terms of the way you are delivering Gen AI and actionable insights to them? So
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, because of my background as a marketing corporate honcho, I will tell you that first of all, this overhype of new concept, especially in digital, is not new. We have had in all sorts and forms in the past, and it's not good for the industry. It's good for quick wins for the big players to jump on this bandwagon, and it's good for media, for a lot of industry. But at the end of the day, for the industry itself, is not good, because to your point, immediately after fatigue comes, and people get tired, and also when there isn't an overpromise. As they say, under promise and over deliver is good for business. When you over promise and under deliver is very bad for business, and this is what happens all the time when we overhype stuff. And AI is just one of these cases. When I was in marketing, in big agencies at the time, I remember that there was this old digital thing, and I remember one day someone came to my office and said, well, there's this new thing, we have to jump on this. It's the QR code. It's super important. This is the thing. This is the next thing. And I was like, guys, this is just a link. It's amazing. By the way, they didn't even know the story of the QR code, which was created for logistic management in Japan. Brilliant idea, brilliant execution, amazing. And now, I remember everyone was putting QR codes on posters and prints and this. And I was like, guys, it doesn't work like that. And so, in fact, just a few months later, a lot of fatigue. Now, a lot of years later, we see QR codes properly used everywhere. Okay, so it's unfortunate that we have this hype, super high expectation. Then you fall into this valley of despair. And then the serious people survive, and they keep doing the work, and they know what the technology is about, and they use it for the greater good and the greater business good. So when it comes to AI, look, the problem with AI is not even with generative AI. The problem with AI comes with the expression artificial intelligence, which is a nice expression. It's beautiful. But if you think about it, and I don't want to get too philosophical here, but it's the reality. As a species, we don't even know what intelligence is. We cannot define what intelligence is. I have a lot of friends in the academic world, much more brilliant than me. They work on computational biology. They work on very, very serious topics related to conscience and intelligence, and they cannot say what intelligence is. So the whole point that we are trying to rebuild something that we don't even understand what it is flawed at the very beginning. And a lot of the hype comes with that, because we try to imitate, I would say to ape, actually, human beings, while artificial intelligence is an amazing tool. It's an empowering tool that allows real intelligence, human intelligence, to do things that otherwise would be impossible, especially looking at seeing patterns through chaos. When things become too complex, simplify, help focusing on the right problems. So back to fatigue. Yeah, we see that a lot. I mean, what is generative AI? Generative AI, now everyone thinks about ChatGPT as generative AI or DALL-E or this kind of models. The models behind those applications, which are, I would say, just a UX, a user interface, are amazing and super powerful. So if we start refocusing less on the hype, less on we are creating the new God and the new intelligence. I hear this story all the time on media, promoted by Sam Altman who of course takes advantage of all this hype. But at the end of the day, in the short run, this is gonna leave a lot of people unsatisfied, because too many expectations, too high. Let's go back and focus on the foundation of AI, uh, and uh, and solve problems instead of
Yeah.
having a nice conversation with a machine, which is totally fake.
So here is my question, right? You mentioned that there is a hype, then there's a valley of despair, and then we kind of move towards. But the problem here is more nuanced, right? Because with Gen AI, the investments are significant, right? And it's not just about repurposing enthusiasm of some of the leadership that is there towards that reality of producing actionable insights rather than just this hype and as soon as possible.
Let's say everyone is looking for the golden pot, and I think that because of the hype, we will get to the golden pot at the end of the rainbow a bit later than expected. So where is the golden pot in my opinion? Most of the initial investment in artificial intelligence, as well as the current investment, most of the current investment, are behind a consultative model from a business perspective, I'm saying. Okay, so in other terms, I go to a customer. The customer has a problem. Typically, the customer says, I have a lot of data myself about myself, big company saying, for example, I have a lot of data. I have a lot of data about supply chain. I have a lot of data about sales. I have a lot of this, a lot of that, a lot of different sources. And I cannot make sense of this. Can you help me predict my future? Can you help me solve a business problem? Can you help me with this or with that? So one of the first applications are, I would say, customized application of AI based on enterprise data coming from the customer. So in that fashion, the AI experts work as consultants. They come into, and this whole business was, by the way, initiated by IBM, which was also a customer of mine when in my days when I was at WPP, head of strategy, and we were responsible for the campaigns of IBM Watson, for example, another pretty much overhyped thing we were responsible for. But basically, starting with that model, this is a consulting model. You go there, man-hour intense, labor intense, paradoxically, where you go, you have to do a lot of scouting of this data, internal data, understanding, interviewing, understanding where the value really is, reorganizing things, making sense of this, applying the right AI engines, the right AI libraries, technologies, and then coming up with a solution which is heavily customized in terms of processes, in terms of data, and so forth. A lot of current business are based on that. And then on the other extreme, like literally at the other end of the spectrum, we have super simplified, we have basically the ChatGPT application, to be very, very transparent and honest, brutally honest here. So the ChatGPT application are very nice from an interface standpoint, and it can, in many cases, they can solve a lot of problems. Think about reorganizing your Excel file, or rearranging in a better form your email, or your writing, and so forth, and maybe even providing information in a much faster and sometimes even better, although biased, way than a Google search, than a normal search engine. All totally fine. But when we jump into ChatGPT application, right now, all the applications are application of this beautiful interface to an unstructured sea of data, which are basically available online. And the problem starts there, because getting actionable insight from that application is, if you are asking me, basically impossible. Because when you want actionable insight, what you're looking for is something that you can act upon. Of course, the word itself says that. You want something that you can explain. That's very important.
Insight.
If I have to go to my board and say, hey guys, we have to invest $10 million on this. Okay, tell me why. ChatGPT told me, and this is the transcript. I mean, it doesn't work, right? So you have to be able to explain the whole reasoning behind. You have to make sure that statistically you have analyzed all the potential options. And this is something that ChatGPT or any application of ChatGPT is not designed for. Okay. So a lot of the hype that you were referring to, the fatigue that you were referring to before, is just due to this last application at the end of the spectrum, which is this quick win of having something that resembles a human consultant that provides answer that apparently makes sense, but you cannot build a business out of that. You cannot do actionable things out of that. It doesn't work like that. So where is the solution? So I think, and this is, maybe I'm biased because of course this is where we build massive with that in mind. I think that as usual, the answer is in the middle. So you want to build something which, first of all, that is scalable as much as possible, so less consultative as possible. And also you want to be something, of course, that is actionable. So what do you have to do first? Where is the first AI application you should focus on? This is my recipe, okay? But you should take a vertical. You should understand what's the data problem in that vertical. So what are the sources of data? What is the inherent bias in those sources? What are the gaps that you have to eventually fill? And then you basically create an AI application just for that vertical, with the purpose of transforming or enhancing a raw data set into a data set which bears information. So from data points to insight. That is basically the transformation. And without AI, you cannot do that. Now, the consulting business that I mentioned before at the other end of the spectrum are doing that, but they're doing it on a consultative basis with applications that are very difficult to expand into other, because they're very customer specific. The whole bet is, let's try together as an industry to focus on verticals, build the best AI possible for that vertical, and then rinse and repeat. And let me also tell you this. Another problem that we have with the whole AI narrative, the generative AI narrative, comes with another adjective, which is general AI, very similar to generative AI, general AI. Looking and searching and fighting for general AI is a very dangerous thing, okay, for a number of reasons. But first of all, because it's a dream. It's if you're asking me, I don't think we will ever reach general AI in the way people mean it. I think general AI will definitely be the sum of vertical AI. I don't believe in a system that can really understand what's the problem at hand, what's the task at hand, understand really general, okay? The general intelligence. But
like a human.
Exactly. Forget about my beliefs, which are not beliefs. It's just that I do coding, I build these kind of things, and to anyone with a bit of, mathematical also understanding of the problem, and even a bit of philosophical understanding of the problem at hand, it's very, very difficult to get at that. Anyway, getting back to this, we need to focus on vertical problems, okay, as opposed to general problems. And this is where the golden pot, the immediate golden pot is. Now, the other day I was reading a post on LinkedIn from I don't remember the person, but a good influencer in the field of healthcare. And he was posting, the typical meme of Willy Wonka, saying, "Oh, so you are, the one where he goes like, oh, so tell me more about the fact that you are building from ChatGPT for a general physician diagnostic system for every ailment in the world." Okay. And of course, he was making fun of that. And he was telling in the post very, very clearly and very intelligently. He was like, guys, I am seeing a lot of people coming to me because he's also an investor, and he goes like, a lot of people coming to me with this general health system. Oh, you give us all your data about yourself. We measure everything, and we can tell you what you have, what are your illnesses, ailments, and stuff, and then we give you a cure. And he was like, this is laughable. This is not possible with current technology. Okay, this is just wrong. And by the way, I work it myself in the healthcare system. It's not possible right now. Okay, it's totally not even a dream. It's just a bad dream. What he was actually proposing, he was like, I wish someone would be so smart to come to me and say, look, we have looked at all the data about the Hodgkin's, I don't know how to pronounce it perfectly, but the Hodgkin lymphoma. And we have learned very well about that problem, everything possible about that problem, about the data. What is the right source of data to diagnose that? What is the statistical behavior of those data? What the statistical structure of those data in terms of diagnosis? Understanding very well also what are the limits in terms of bias right now, factoring all these things in, and now we have created a system which can predict 95% of the 95% of the cases a good diagnosis of this specific ailment. Okay, that's a very smart application of AI because it takes into account the complexity of reality, which is after a certain number of variables, it's impossible for the programmer. Okay, it's not impossible for an AI to analyze, even millions of variables. But for the designer of the AI, understanding what are the implications of all these variables, considering all the inherent biases about each one of these, is impossible. And the belief that this AI is a black box that will figure it out anyway, because it's smarter than us, it's a very dangerous one, because it creates the concept of a black box, an AI as black box, which is also very dangerous as a society, because it gives us this false idea that there is someone or something that will figure it out for us, which is not true at all.
There's a progress in terms of the language that we used, right? Around 2 years back, before ChatGPT, we were having a conversation between narrow AI and general AI, right?
Correct.
And narrow AI solved very particular one problems, right? So let's say you have to identify whether the X-ray detects certain disease, yes or no. If you feed in 1,000,000 cases and then you identify it. But now, as an industry, we are a little more optimistic about even generative AI, which is mathematically producing the most likely, plausible, correct answer or content to answer some of these questions. So we have moved in a direction where we are, where AI is more general purpose. But from what I'm hearing from you, and I just wanted to sort of summarize the understanding, is that you're saying if we are to achieve immediate impact from generative AI and not get fatigued out of it, we need to focus on industry problem statements and use cases, and try to come up with the most plausible reason the most plausible why behind the what, and try to help understand our audience in terms of making decisions, right? Also, you mentioned that it is very difficult for executive leadership or any kind of human for that matter to completely depend on AI, right? So let's say AI comes to me and says, hey, you invest X number of dollars in here, or hey, this is the right strategy for the XYZ problem, which is, your answer makes a lot of sense, but I want to put this into a little more context. Can you help us with an example, right, in CPG industry probably, where this is making an impact, so that we are able to picture it a little more perfect, where they are not probably saying that, okay, hey, put XYZ focus on this production line right now rather than this line to avoid bottleneck, but instead of blindly believing it, what are some of the solutions? How do they translate into the real world? Help us picture it, visualize it.
Yeah, of course, I can speak very precisely about the task the vertical task I've worked for a long time, for 10 years of my life. And basically, you're right. So first of all, the narrow versus general thing is the problem here. And I am a big advocate of narrow, not personally. Basically, we have eventually to get back to narrow if we want to figure out what's really going on. And the real application out there of AI are all narrow. And the problem with generative AI is that generative AI, as you said yourself, is, you said in the same sentence, general and generative. And this is because someone by design, basically for business purposes, to promote AI, a certain type of AI, has said, oh no, general AI, generative AI is basically general AI.
No, it definitely is not.
It is clearly not. And you also said two things, answers and content. And yeah, it's great about building content, but not great about providing answers. And there's a big difference between the two. So to your point, okay, how can we apply, for example, for businesses like CPG companies? So first of all, there are two types of data. Okay, let me just get into this. So there are internal data and external data about, let's imagine CPG companies. Okay, let's focus on this. Big or even small companies which are selling products. It could be a phone, it could be a jar of maple syrup, it could be whatever you can think of. Okay, we are talking about products which are sold for a profit. First of all, companies should have at least two sets of data. Internal data, so data about their performance, their sales, for example, data about their production, data about their distribution, and so forth. Okay, and this is one set of data. The second set of data is competitive data. It's about, okay, so I'd like to know how everyone else is doing, not just me. I wish I could have a crystal ball where I could not only see my performance as Procter Gamble, for example, but also my enemy L'Oreal performance. I want to know how do they perform, okay? Because I want to know, because at the end of the day, performance is a relative concept, right? It depends. I cannot say if I'm performing well if I don't know how the market performs. Case in point is, for example, e-commerce. Okay, it's been growing double digits, sometimes triple digits for years. Okay, and when you ask the e-commerce manager, oh, how are you doing? Well, I'm growing double digit. And so everyone was like, wow, he's growing double digit. Yes, but what if your market is growing triple digit? Are you doing well or bad? Okay, the market is growing on average 50%. You're growing 23%. Yes, you're growing 3 times more, even 10 times more of your brick and mortar business. But are you doing well? Are you doing really well? No, because you're actually losing market share. So first of all, you have to understand there are two sets of data, internal and external. What about competitive data in markets today, which have tens of thousands of competitors, not even products? I'm telling you a story. So when we started working with Procter Gamble, we were asked to work first and foremost immediately with their global leader brand, Olay. Olay is a facial skincare brand, big, huge brand, okay, global brand. And when we started working with them in 2019, the number of brands which were their competitors in brick and mortar stores could be counted in the hundreds. Okay, when we showed them the first data, AI data, that we could gather all their competitive landscape from the web and could make sense of that, they were shocked, because for the first time they saw 3,000 competitors, not even a few hundreds. Okay, today the same market has tens of thousands of competitors in just facial skincare only in US. So we're talking about a change of scale from a few hundreds to many tens of thousands. So what AI can do in that case is help Procter & Gamble, and this is what we do, first of all, acquire allow them again to see the entirety of the market, which they cannot see anymore because they don't have non-AI tool could not manage the size of the market of today. So first of all, an AI could actually never stop, fearlessly go about the entire market and gather all the data. And most importantly, be able to make sense of it. And most importantly, to see patterns into this chaos. For example, Ole came to us and said, well, we need to find a solution, an innovation idea. We're looking for a white space, an unmet need. And so with our data, in just a few clicks, thanks to the AI analyzed the entire market, came back and said, look, okay, so first of all, there is an unmet need clearly in the market of sun protection factor, SPF. So products that you apply on your face when you want to protect from the sun. The big problem that we see after reading millions and millions of reviews into this entire market is that too many people are not happy with the fact that when they apply the typical SPF product, their skin looked dull, whitish, clownish. And by the way, applying, mascara or any sort of, makeup is going to be very difficult. There are 3 brands, actually more than 3, but these 3 brands are the leaders in trying to solve this issue. But guess what? They're not solving this issue. And they're not solving this issue because we've also read all the consumer feedback about their brands. And we have noticed that they have a problem with formulation because people are getting more allergic and their formulation have a lot of allergens. And so there is a big opportunity here of launching an SPF product, which could actually be make your skin glow and not look dull. And not full of allergens. And so be careful about the formulation. And by the way, if you do things right, you could price this product $55 a jar. No problem. Even more, actually. So even with your brand, no problem. So what I just told you normally requires months and months of very, very expensive and limited and wrong and biased market research. And AI, if properly designed with this specific task at hand, which in our case is pretty not so narrow, is our case is okay. Tell CPG companies what products they have to kill, to build, and to improve. In general, looking at the whole competitive landscape that they have, optimizing their resources and their whole marketing mix to maximize their return on investment. That's basically the narrow application of massive. Now, if you build an AI with this in mind, and only with this in mind, you can provide those answers in days instead of, not even in days, in hours of analysis instead of months, years, and so forth. But if you pretend that a general AI can go about this very complex problem and sort it out and figure it out, that's a problem.
One of the things that I'm realizing is you're saying essentially it's important to provide context and explainability, right? You have to explain your answers. That is when humans will start trusting the generative AI. Am I correct in understanding what you mentioned?
That's a very beautiful way of putting it. Yes, it's. I like the fact that you narrow it down to this problem because I think you're right. That is the how to say the elephant in the room, so to speak.
Fantastic. Gian, this has been a really fantastic conversation, very insightful, very first-hand experiences, which will really be useful for our audience. One of the things that I've observed in the industry is leaders are always looking for some of the use cases, case studies, and learnings from the leaders. And this interview is the perfect example of how knowledge can be shared within the community for us to grow together and responsibly. So thank you so much for making the time, and thank you so much for spending this half an hour, 45 minutes with me to share your experiences. And I hope we can keep working together. And thank you again.
No, thank you. Thank you for the time and for the very interesting question. So let's grow this industry together and let's make it move to the right direction.